Good morning, class. And this morning we'll be discussing weeds. As you can see, W-E-E-D-S. And we want to know what is weeds, what are the kinds of weeds, and what problem do we cause to the farm. And what is weed? They say a Great Britain farmer, Khरपतव, was the first person to have defined weed in 1731 in his book Foreign Husbandry. He was the first person from Great Britain, which means he was the first farmer to define the word weed, and he's called Khरपतव. Just in case on the exam they ask you who was the one that discovered, or who was the one that first used the word weed, you say Khरपतव. And he said, a weed is a plant growing where it is not desired. So if you make a farm here and you see grass growing there or any plant growing that you do not desire, that plant is referred to as weeds. And he also said that a weed is a plant growing out of a place. Sometimes when you make a farm and when you're making the farm, you see plants growing there randomly and you don't desire those plants. Those plants that are growing there randomly are referred to as weeds. A plant could be undesirable at one place and desirable at other places. Now, this is the important aspect in weed science. In many times in agriculture, there are plants that when you cultivate here, for instance, if you are cultivating corn, and to your utmost surprise, you saw cabbage growing there, yes, we agree that the cabbage in that identical locality is a weed, but in another locality, that cabbage becomes something that is very valuable. While it is true, here it is not desirable, but in the next locality, it is desirable. For example, Harili, Fortils, and Goosey's grass are valuable plants in pasture, but in crop feed, these are well-known troublesome weeds. You see it? These two plants, Harili and Fortilis and Goose, these are two different plants that are not good on the crop site where you grow crops. But when you take them to a pasture land where you already cultivated with grasses for animals to carry on grazing, these two plants are really, it becomes very important because why? It has more nutrients that when the animal consumes, it allows the animal to grow very, very good in body size. So anywhere you see plants growing and they are not desirable, they are referred as weed. But in another area, they could be used as pasture or they could be used as food for human beings. So that is the clear definition of weeds, and these two weeds are examples of weeds that could be desirable somewhere else and not desirable another area. So thank you, and keep following as we keep providing you with more information. Okay, we come now to the classification of weed. Okay. Okay. Classification of weeds. They say out of 250,000 plant species, we constitute about 250 species, which means out of over 250,000 of different species of plants around the world, you have around 250 types that are just weed, which are prominent in agriculture and non-agricultural systems. So you can find weed in agricultural system, and you also find them in non-agricultural system. Under world conditions, about 30,000 species is grouped as weeds. So under some conditions, you observe that 30,000 species of these identical crop species in the world are grouped as weed. Out of these, 18,000 species can cause damage to the crops. So out of these 30,000, 18,000 of them can cause damage to crops across the world, which means when you go into the garden, it will cause serious damage to the crops and render the entire farm completely not good when it comes to production. We are classified into 8 types. Number one, they are classified based on morphology. Talk about morphology, talk about structure, how they appear, how the look. You see some weeds are very short, some are big, broadleaf, some are very slim. And they are based on life cycle, which means the time they live. Some we are annual weed, biannual, and perennial weed as well. So you observe that we are classified based on life cycle and based on habitat, type of habitat, where they grow, the environment in which they grow in. So you also classify weed like that. Then they are based on origin, where they came from or where you took them from to another area. There are some weed that are in India. They were not in India before. They came from Pakistan. But because farmers were exchanging seeds from one place to another, they mistakenly took that weed from its original place and brought it down to India. Then we are also classified based on association, how they associate themselves with other crops. That's how they are classified as well. They are based on nature of the stem. The stem also will allow you to classify weeds. Then we have said based on soil type. There are some weeds that grow in sandy soil, they will not grow in loamy soil. There are some weeds that grow in loamy soil, they will not grow in sandy soil. So we are classified based on the type of soil. And lastly, they are also classified based on what? Various classifications that are also being set up by scientists. For instance, classification based on morphology, cognitive characteristics. The morphological classification is most important in this what in weed control. Every time you're talking about controlling weed, you control weed so many ways. You either control it physically, you control it using chemical means, or other means of controlling the weed. So if you went on the farm and you met weed growing randomly, you can decide to use physical control method by weeding the farm, or chemical control method by using chemical to spray the farm so that the weed can die completely. Morphological characteristics of plants are closely related to herbicide absorptions. See, there are some weeds, when you don't use herbicide, trust me, no matter how you weed them, you will not be having a chance to remove them completely. But if you use herbicide on the field, it removes them, it kills them, and there are some herbicides that are even selective. Even if you have a crop here and you plant and you have weed into it, when you use certain herbicides, it kills only the weed and leave the crop for the crop to survive. So such weeds, you need to use herbicide completely to get them off the field. Then we say, this is the most widely used classification by the weed science or scientists. So weeds are generally divided into three groups. There are three different groups of weed. Number one, we are divided into grasses. Weeds that are divided into grasses, or weeds that are situated in grasses classification. These are weeds many times that will have fibrous root system. Their root system are not too deep, they are very shallow to the plants. They will have weeds that are called seedless weeds, and lastly we'll talk about broadleaf weeds. So these are the type of weed according to scientific calculation and scientific classification. Thank you.